Ow! I just bonked my head. I have a diagonal ceiling, and where I have the camera positioned right now, I had to stoop over it in order to fiddle around with the behind scenes, and as I stood up, I bonked my head. All right, well, my name is Dave. Today I'm drinking some Knob Creek 12, and I'm here to explain to myself in the future, or to anybody else that's watching this, how dare you watch this? This is private information. That's why I put it publicly in the public forum. That didn't make any sense, but I really wanted to do this because I wanted to record this for posterity. I had an absolutely amazing trip to Kentucky with my dad, and we drove down there, we drove out west there. 12 hours we drove. Well, I drove there, and then when we went back, I drove for a good amount of time. My dad drove, I think, for about like 3 or 4 hours. I needed a couple breaks, and at the end, I was just so completely and totally tired and unable to continue safely, so he had to do the last hour and a half, and he was a real trooper for doing that. He was a real trooper for coming at all. But the story is, I wanted to do something for my 30th birthday. I turned 30 this year in February. That was nice. I really liked it. It feels good being older and not young anymore. But I'm not old. That's the worst part. I can't even tell people that they're old, and I can't tell people that I'm young. I'm kind of stuck in the middle, and it's not fun. It's not a pleasant experience. But I stopped caring what people think, and I wanted to celebrate that by going to Kentucky. It is the bourbon capital of the world. There are so many distilleries, there's so many places to go, there's some great horseback riding and great farms that you could visit. I know I'm not doing the state of Kentucky any justice, but those are the reasons why I decided to go to Kentucky for my vacation. And my dad wasn't able to go with me in February for a variety of reasons. They were getting some work done on their house. He had had a medical emergency a few months before that. And quite frankly, I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the time to do it. So fast forward to July 26th. I believe we went down. Today is the 3rd of August. It's a Saturday. I just got back last night at around 2 a.m. Friday, and we left on the 26th of July. At 8 a.m. I picked him up at his house. So, man, I decided to drive to Kentucky. That was the important thing for me, is to be able to spend a lot of time with my dad. We were going to be drinking, so that was a concern, but not very much, and I could really hold my own liquor. We didn't drive that much after we drank. It was more like we would drink, we'd hang out, we'd make sure we always did something with a full stomach. We drank a lot of water. We didn't drink everything that they put in front of us at all the distilleries and all the restaurants and everything. So we tried to do it as responsibly as we possibly could while on a budget. And if you don't like that, well, we're grown adults. We knew what we were doing, and we made the best out of our situation, because we're not going to pay for a shuttle, and we're not going to get tanked. And my dad was the DD during these trips. He's not a big bourbon drinker fan, but he came along because he wanted to spend time with me. I wanted to spend time with him, and it really was nice to have another person in the car with me, another person in line at the distilleries, and just it was an amazing experience. And so we managed to start our trip uneventfully at Burger King. We got 4 cheeseburgers, a large fry, I thought that I would need to get some cash for tolls. From New Jersey to Kentucky, there's about like $64 in tolls that you have to pay. And it's about 700 miles, well, 670 miles. It's about a 10 and a half hour drive. It took us 12. And that's one way, right? And then on the way back, you got to pay about like $60 in toll, I think. You might be wondering, why would you want to drive 11 hours and pay $120 in tolls, plus all the gas? Well, the budget for the gas was about $200. The tolls is $120. That's about $320. Plus, we stopped a couple times and had some food and dinner. My father graciously paid for all the food that we went and ate. He didn't have to do that. I told him he didn't have to do that. We were very modest. We did go to a steakhouse and spent like about $100. And we did go to lunch a few times, but we kept it very, very cost effective. But I paid for everything else. I paid for the hotel. I paid for the gas. I paid for all the bottles that he bought and that I bought. Well, he bought in my stead. We'll get to that. But you might be wondering, why would you spend $320 and drive 11 hours? That's insane. First thing is that there's not a lot of airport traffic that goes to Louisville or Lexington. And when they do, it's for very specific dates. It did not fit with my schedule. That's the first thing, is that the dates for flying did not fit with my schedule and the time that I had scheduled off. That's the first thing. The second thing was that round trip in the the beginning of August, end of July, came out to be about $450, not including taxes, fees, and all sorts of hidden numbers that they seem to slide into the bill whenever you don't really pay attention to it. So that's round trip, one person. So for the two of us, it would have been less than a 2-hour flight. We would have had to spend $900 and rent a car for 4 days. And we did a lot of driving. And worst of all, when you go to Kentucky and you're going to be buying bottles of liquor, you cannot travel with those on the plane unless it's in a checked bag. And there's a limit to how many that you can actually bring with you. So that's not good. That's not good, because I had a budget of about $1,000 that I was going to spend on bourbon. And for the cost of the trip, it was 3 nights, 4 days, or stayed Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. So 3 nights, 2 days traveling, 2 days there. About $1,000 for the cost of the trip, and then $1,000 to spend. And that's for $2,000, and that includes all the tours, like what it costs to do the tours. And I thought that was really some great money well spent to go to Kentucky, and we stayed at, not like crazy expensive hotels. I think at the end of the day out the door per night at the hotel, it was like $150. But I digress. So we get on the road, we see a couple accidents. Of course, it's because they fell off the road. Hey, Popo. Yeah, my cat just came in. She's quite cross with me. I love you. I love you too. So we see a couple accidents. We make a couple stops. We genuinely have a great time going through the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia. The interstate was fantastic. I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful that was. Driving out there, it's a little tiring, but you take a break every 2.5 hours. You stretch your legs, you drink some water, you have some coffee. It helps that my dad and I, we just caught up on a bunch of things talking, and it was amazing. We had a great time. We actually ran into one really, really bad stop traffic moment all the way in West Virginia, the mountains of West Virginia. There's this 100 and 150 mile stretch of mountains where that's interstate and mountains. That's it. And we ran into this 2-mile traffic block of standstill traffic that had been going on for about 45 minutes when we pulled up, according to the app. And we were a little worried, truth be told, and we were concerned because the whole way that we went down, there was work getting done on all the roads. Consistently throughout the entire trip, there was work being done literally every 100 miles or less on the road wherever we traveled. Every day. And we were worried that there was work getting done on the road and that we would be delayed, that, 4-lane major interstate highway getting reduced down to 1. And we've already driven 600 miles, 500 miles, so it was definitely a little concerning. My dad and I were joking what it was, and my dad said, "Oh, he probably just fell off the road." I said, that can't possibly be true. We pull up, traffic lets up, we pull up about less than 5 minutes, maybe a quarter of a mile. Yeah, tractor trailer got run off the road. It was a 6% descent, or incline. 6%'s a lot with a tractor trailer. So the guy lost control, and thankfully he was okay. Trailer looked like a bug splat. So anyway, we get to Lexington, or Versailles, right outside of Versailles. The hotel is conveniently about 15 minutes away from Wild Turkey and 15 minutes away from Four Roses, and about 45 minutes to Bardstown, which was our ultimate destination, but I'll get into that. The reason why I chose Wild Turkey for distilleries that we're going to visit, Wild Turkey, Four Roses, and the third, my favorite, Heaven Hill. Quite frankly, I was just there for Four Roses barrel strength picks and Heaven Hill You Do Bourbon, right? Like that was all that I really wanted to do. Oh, and hopefully, hoping against all hopes that if I went to the Wild Turkey gift shop, they would have a Russell's 15 or a Russell's 13 year for MSRP just lying around. Little did I know they did, but they were behind the bar, and they were for $30 for a 1 ounce pour of the 13 and $45 for a 1 ounce pour of the 15. Oh my God. I actually saw somebody buy a pour of that, and they bought another pour of the single barrel that they had released inside the gift shop. $60 for 2 ounces of bourbon. Not that early in the trip would I spend that kind of money. I'm sorry. And I know it's good, but, maybe towards the end, but there's a lot of trip, and there's a lot of bottles, and you never know. I have a budget. But I chose those 3 distilleries, and Wild Turkey was something of an oddity. I didn't think I would end up going there. I don't really particularly care much for their products. I mean, it's okay, it's not great, it's not terrible. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying I much prefer Heaven Hill and Four Roses, their profiles, and like Knob Creek, Jim Beam. But that was a little too far. The plan originally was to just do the Four Roses barrel strength, just get lucky, pick up 2 of those, 1 or 2 barrel strength, because I didn't know the availability, and go to Heaven Hill and do the You Do Bourbon experience. That was really what the plan was, and then I was going to leave Friday morning, and the plan was Wednesday do Four Roses, Thursday do Heaven Hill, go to Louisville and visit the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience, explore the city a little bit, drive back to Lexington for Friday morning for us to get up and just leave, right? Well, things didn't quite happen that way, and for the best. So I picked Wild Turkey because I discovered that it was only 15 minutes from Four Roses. So I said, hey, what the hell? I'll go. I mean, it's $20 per person for the tour. Why not? I'll go. So I end up going. The tour that we had with Denisa, best tour I've ever had in my life. when it comes to a distillery. It was the first one and the best. They were the only distillery that let us go into a rick house. I finally discovered what this tastes like a rick house, what that tasting note is. I can't even begin to describe how important that is. It's amazing. Very informative. They had single barrels available in the gift shop. I had visited that morning hoping to, like, at the opening of Wild Turkey, I thought there'd be a line. No. I walk in, I try to convince the bartender to let me have one of the unopened bottles of Russell's 13 or Russell's 15 behind the bar, and that I would purchase them. But they had a Russell's single barrel distillery exclusive pick that I could have picked up. I think it was a warehouse. It was a Tyson G. It was a Tyrone G. I'm sorry, TYG. And it was like 8 years old, 101 proof. I said, I'm good. I didn't even want to try it. I was going to be back at 11:30 anyway. Run back to the hotel, take a shower, go to do the tour. We did the tour. It was a great time. Just what a beautiful facility. Go to the gift shop. They're out of the Tyson barrels. There's one left. And I'm like, crap. I really wanted my dad to get one too. Like, I wanted at least 2 of those Distiller Select bottles. I go to the counter, I ask him, hey, do you have any more? He said, oh, no, we don't have any more of that. No, I mean, okay, like any more of the, hi, Popo, any more of the single barrel selects? He says, oh, they're out of that one? Yeah. Oh, we got more of a different one. I said, oh, really? So he goes to the back, he grabs a couple boxes, he opens them up, and what do I see? Oh, hello. That's not the right one. This. Now I know what you're thinking. This is not a 15. And this is not a 13. But why would you be so excited about this in particular? Well, my friends, this is the Visitor Center June 2024 distillery pick. It was distilled on 9/30/14 and dumped on 7/11/24. It is 9 years, 9 months, and 11 days old. And it is a Camp Nelson F barrel. I decided I had to try a pour of it. Imagine a fruit roll-up, one of those homemade fruit jerky roll-ups, and then oak infused just ever so slightly, oak dust and powdered sugar and cinnamon sprinkled on top. You put it in your mouth and you just let it melt. Oh my God. This was amazing. I told my dad, look, there's no going back. We got to get 2 of these. So we got 2 of them. Oh yeah. That was amazing. I was so happy with that. They were $80 a piece though. A little expensive. But worth every last penny. 2 of these. That's great. So now we have a little time to kill before we go to Four Roses at 3 o'clock. We get some lunch. Actually, no, we go to Keeneland. We get lunch and then we go to Keeneland. I remember that. Famous racetrack. Money. It's in Lexington, or I'm sorry, right outside of Versailles. What a beautiful place. We go, we find out they're closed for summer construction, or they're still open to the public for tours, but just the grounds. And we take some great pictures. We get lunch at a local barbecue spot. We go to Four Roses. We do the tour there. Wow, what a great tour. Our tour guide, I think, was Rachel. Really had a great time. I was kind of interested to see what bottles they had. I had gone after, I'd gone that morning, right, Wednesday, to the Four Roses distillery as well to see what single barrel options they had. I think they had an OESV and an OBSQ that were like 8 years old apiece, and like the low teens in proof. And I wasn't really interested in that. I thought, okay, do you think you'll sell out by the end of the day? And they said probably, but you're always welcome to come back. I said okay. So I neglected to mention that, of course, after I left Four Roses at the distillery at 9:30 that morning. I went to Four Roses and then hucked my way back. They're only like 10-15 minutes away. So we come back after the tour at Four Roses. It's like 4:30 now, and they have two different barrel picks this time. So what do? I grab some bottles. You'll never know what kind of bottles I grab. First, we'll go with... Actually, no, I lie again. When I found out that they had those two bottles that were there that first thing in the morning, I bought one of each. So it was, yes, an OBSK and an OESV. The OBSK is 9 years, 3 months. Oh, baby. Presents aromas of allspice and delicate pear, robust flavors of rye and baking spice balanced with soft honey and vanilla tones and fade into a long finish. OESV, bright grains, apricot, vanilla, balanced perfectly in the aromas of this 8-year, 10-month bourbon. The rich barrel tones linger in a long finish with hints of cinnamon and pear. Oh my! The OESV is about 122 proof, is a floor 5. And the OBSK is a 56.9, so I think that is just under 112 proof, and that is a tier 2. Not the most exciting, but both of these were bottled in May. So we'll put those to the side. However, when we got there that afternoon, they had something a little more interesting. This is an OBSQ, 11 years, 2 months, floor 5, 124.8. This bourbon introduces itself with aromas of bright red fruit, lavender, and creme brulee. Robust flavors of ripe cherries and rye spice balance with the soft honey and oak tones on the palate and finish of this 11-year, 2-month-old bourbon. Enjoy. This was bottled in April. So I got 2 of those. Yeah, I'm breaking through my budget now. I'm getting a little nervous. That's okay. I decided to myself, I'm just happy with how things are going to end here. We're going to do the You Do Bourbon at Heaven Hill the next day. We drive an hour after we're done at the distillery to Bardstown, where we have a hotel room ready and waiting. We're going to stay the next 2 nights there. Then we're going to just drive back, right? But I get the idea. I'm going to wait in line at Heaven Hill, just like I did this morning. Maybe there'll be no line. Maybe I'll get lucky. So Wednesday night, we go to the Rick House. It was a great steakhouse. They had an amazing food. And that's located in Bardstown. We go to the hotel. I wake up the next day at 7:20, have breakfast. I roll out the door at 8 o'clock thinking, I'm going to be an hour and a half early, 2 hours early, give or take. Who's going to be in line? About 85 people. About 85 people were in line. And I thought, oh my God, what are they releasing? I wait an hour and a half, and it's announced that they have Old Fitz 10. They only had 32 bottles. That was so disappointing. I didn't think that I would, I had gotten right around outside the gift shop, and I could almost see the bottles disappearing before my very eyes. And I thought, God, why did it have to end this way? This is awful. Why did it have to end this way? It's not fair. But I thought, okay, I'm going to just come back and do the You Do You bourbon experience. Everything's going to be fine. Okay, everything's going to be fine. So I had to go back to the hotel, I take a shower. My dad and I, we go to the distillery. We get the experience underway. They had a 9-year-old malt whiskey for their Heaven Hill Select stock. It's one of 4 options that they have available at the distillery. And then you have your Bernheim, your Larceny, and your Elijah Craig. The malt whiskey was good enough, but not for $200, which is what they wanted for it. The Bernheim was great. That was a strong favorite. The Bernheim was great. It tastes like blueberry cobbler. I had never had, and it had the best mouthfeel out of the Larceny and the malt. It was delicious. Adding a little water really spiced up the finish, but it was a delicious berry-forward Bernheim barrel proof. I think it was 9 years old. The Larceny, for me, nothing to write home about. But then the Elijah Craig came along. And that thing took me by surprise. The moment I smelled it, you could smell it was old. It was old. It had a little bit of stink to it in a good way. It had a musk to it. It had a I've been here a while kind of flair. And when I took a sip of it, the very first sip, it didn't burn my mouth. It just climbed up my gums. And the tasting that I can describe to you is butterscotch, toffee, but what really dominated the palate, just because they give you itty bitty little bit of whiskey, what really dominated the palate was just this ephemeral, ghostly, light, layered touch of rickhouse soul. A little bit of dust, they just took a piece of the rickhouse with them when they took this bottle, and a piece of its essence just came out, and not in like a dusky kind of like got in your drink kind of flavor. It was more like you walk into a wood-shorn house, like a fresh log cabin, and all the wood is brand new and it looks bright and gleaming to your eye, and you can see on the table that there's like plates and people have been setting up for dinner, and you put your hand onto the wall and ever so slightly run your fingers across, and you can see this barely perceptible layer of dust just coming through, and it's like, oh, somebody hasn't been here for a little while, but it's almost imperceptible layer of dust. That imperceptible layer of dusty age immediately made me think this is going to be good. This is going to be good. So I asked them for the Elijah Craig, what are the stats on it? Well, it's a 10-barrel batch. It is a mix of 12-year-old bourbon and now backtrack a little bit. I talked to the woman at the distillery gift shop, which one she thought that I should get. My dad and I had gone in there to do a little scouting. She said the Elijah Craig. She thought that one was really good. I asked her why. She said, because I had a friend in Georgia who couldn't make it, and I asked if I could bottle one for him, and they let me do it. And I thought, oh. So go back to the You Do Bourbon. The guy says, oh yeah, so the Elijah Craig is a 10-barrel batch of 12-year-old and 18-year-old barrels. What? And it's at 134.4 proof. needless to say, we got the Elijah Craig. And guess what my dad got? Following instructions. Another Elijah Craig. Excuse me 1 second while I take a look. Going on a while, but this stuff is so dark. I can't even see my fingers through it, shining a bright light into this. I can't even see my fingers. I can't even see the shadow of my fingers. We got these. And I will continue in but a short, brief moment.